What's up, YouTubers? It's me, Johnny. I'm here in Mexico City. I want to make a short video on. I just saw a video about. Well, it's from the channel A Life with David. He's a dude who lives in, I think, Medellin, Colombia, and he has a pretty interesting channel. For those of you who have an interest in Colombia in general, you might want to check out his channel. As far as I know, he's like a Mexican American who went and transferred to or went to live in Colombia. And he made a few videos in Mexico and then he stopped for some reason. I'm not sure why that would be, but anyhow, I won't get into that. But anyways, his latest video was about the perils and pitfalls of owning like a kiosk in a mall. Um, I've been started watching his videos for a long time. Anyways, he initially had bought that, according to him on his channel, years ago to get a business visa so he could live in Colombia. And then, I don't know, sometime during COVID or something like that, they wouldn't let him extend his visa anymore. So he had a business visa for approximately 3 years and he had to leave Colombia. So, at least from what he said, that's why he initially got it, is to get a visa to live there. What I didn't understand at the time is how much money he spent. Now, from his latest video, if you watch all the way through, you'll get the impression that basically he didn't say what it cost, but if he didn't spell it out, but what a small studio would cost in neighborhoods near Poblado and that other, I forget that other neighborhood, but that's what he invested in this kiosk. The reason it's interesting to watch this video is because he paid cash for this and he never got the title. Sometimes I talk about in my videos why you should have a lawyer, why you shouldn't really invest in things you don't understand unless you live there a long time. At least in Latin America, you can own real estate, but until you live in a place for a couple of years, I would just say honestly, you really don't know the prices. I'm going to get some hell for saying this, but you think you know the prices from talking to people and doing this and that, but you don't really know the prices until you live there a couple of years, and you realize how everyone's getting ripped off by gringo real estate people. In general, in Latin America, anyone can say they're a real estate agent. Like, you can buy, or you can go to an owner and say, I'll sell this property for anything over 100x, I get to keep. Or he'll just say 100,000, and like you say you want something for $250,000, he'll go find something for 100,000 and he keeps the difference, then charges you a fee. There's so much of that kind of stuff going on. It's why I don't really recommend owning until you really understand. And that's the first thing of gringos, Americans, Canadians do. Oh, I want to buy a house, I want to do this, and they end up paying way more than property is even worth. And anyways, A Life with David, check it out. His latest video on buying this kiosk and all the frustration he's going through getting the title, getting it re-rented. And this was apparently a brand new mall, and the owners or the developers were pretty sketchy. I thought he was going to talk about how they cut corners. I think they actually did, but they also sold him this property he paid cash for, and he never even got the title yet. So technically, he doesn't even know it. He says in the video he does, but I don't think he realizes he may not really own that. I feel bad for the guy, but anyways, it's just why I tell people, like, you think you know what's going on, but you really don't. Like, there's so many scams like that. Like I just said, like all over Latin America, where Americans and Latins, they'll sell you property they don't own. That happens all the time in Guatemala. That happens even with Guatemalans. I know Guatemalans who bought property, thought they owned it, but they didn't. The people selling it to them didn't have the legal right to sell it to them. That become a big mess. You lose your property. You spend a lot of fees on lawyers working it all out. Anyways, there's just so much of that going on that if you can't find an honest lawyer to tell you who owns what and what's what, I wouldn't even buy a property. If you can find a lawyer you trust and who knows the law, then I would. But that's if I really wanted to own property. And I'm just saying, there's all this frustration when you could just keep your capital offshore and whatever banks and investments that are and trust, not so much in the country. But if you are going to invest in these countries, a lot of times the safest way to do it is not the cheapest way, but buy the most expensive property in the most expensive neighborhoods, which you may not want to do or may not be affordable, which I understand, but there's just so many ways to get scammed. So that I just wanted to make a like kind of a short video on, like, that's a good channel to watch. I like watching David. He tells about his trials and tribulations in Colombia, and it's very fascinating. So if you get a chance, check out the channel. Check out his channel, Life with David. The latest video he put out is about his kiosk. It's not a kiosk, but it's like a little space inside a mall. Like, from what he said, it's actually easier to rent spaces, from what I know, in like the Philippines and sell your goods there, because I'm aware of people who used to actually do that, foreigners, I mean. But in Latin America, it's just, it can be a big cluster heck. He kept calling it a big cluster heck too, because the rental agent he was using to rent it out was kind of scamming him in different ways. The people who built the whole mall, who he bought this from, are scamming him. The developers are scamming the other tenants there, so they're not paying their fees. So the place is not being maintained. During COVID, all the traffic fell in the mall. And for some reason, for whatever reason, there's not a lot of traffic now, but more than there was. Like I said, then at the end of the video, he's saying what he should have done. What he should have done is what he said. He said he should have bought a studio. Now, as a generalization, I agree with that, except for the next part. He wanted to buy a studio and then put it on Airbnb. Man, everyone's doing that, and the market's so saturated now, and prices are so sky high that market's going to fall out very fast. That's just my opinion, though. With all these new online jobs that Americans can get now and work, they're just going all over the world and renting these places, so the prices are up. But I think that's kind of come crashing down. But we'll have to wait and see. I'm not a big fan of Airbnb. I have used it, but if you check all over Latin America, Airbnb prices are super, maybe twice as much as what they'd be if you just got the same apartment, but it wasn't listed on Airbnb. So, and there's so many apartments you can rent that are not on Airbnb for just so much less, that's why I don't really suggest people use it unless you want something that's just convenient and you think it's a fair price. Then it's nice, because then you don't have the first, last, and all that's nonsense. But all that can be negotiated if you don't want to do that too. That's what I normally do. But anyways, the moral of the story, in my opinion, if you don't understand how to do business in Latin America, don't invest your life savings. Don't invest everything you've ever earned or saved. Don't invest in real estate or these kiosks or a slot at a mall unless you know what you're doing, unless you've done that business in the United States or Canada or wherever you're from. If you have that experience, it could be a different story. It could be a totally different story. But if a lot of people, they don't know how to do business, they spend way too much money on what the rents really are. And that's another thing he was talking about. The rents they're asking for at this mall are super, super high that no one's paying. That's why the mall is empty. And I think that's going to have to come down too, else it'll never get rented. Or what'll happen is everyone will just walk away and the whole mall will deteriorate, and the people who put their money in will just lose everything. And whoever these developers are, they might disappear if they ripped off the wrong person, who knows. But anyways, there's just so many bad things that can happen. When you invest in a country, you don't understand the laws. You don't even really understand how to get a title to a property. There's so many ways to get scammed. Anyways, I'm just going to let it go at that. Like, share, subscribe, and leave a comment. Thank you.